Marcus Chen walked through the dark alleys of Port Designation 7 with tired feet and an empty stomach. The massive orbital station stretched for miles in every direction, filled with thousands of aliens from across the galaxy he had just finished. A 16-hour shift loading cargo containers onto freighters, and all he wanted was to reach his small quarters and sleep. The back alleys were faster than the main corridors, even though they smelled bad and the lights barely worked. Marcus preferred them to the crowded stations where pickpockets waited for tired workers like him. He pulled his jacket tighter against the cold, cycled air, and kept walking. That was when he saw Hera. Young alien girl sat slumped against a rusted wall. Her skin had strange glowing patterns that flickered weakly like dying lights. Two small crystalline horns grew from her forehead, but they looked cracked and damaged. Her clothes were torn and dirty. She looked up at Marcus with desperate eyes. Marcus stopped. He recognized her species from the station records, Valenian people with beautiful glowing skin who came from a conquered world. The Drath Empire had destroyed their planet months ago. Now Valenian refugees filled stations across the sector with nowhere to go and no one to help them. The girl tried to stand, but her legs shook. She spoke in broken English, her voice barely a whisper. "I will do anything. Please, I need food or credits. Anything you want, I will do." Marcus felt his stomach turn. He had seen desperation before growing up in the poor districts of Earth. He had watched people sell everything they had just to survive. But this was different. This girl looked barely 20 years old, and she was offering herself to a stranger. Just for a meal, he knelt down slowly, making sure not to scare her. "When did you last eat?" She stared at him, confused by the question. Her glowing patterns dimmed even more. 3 days, maybe 4. "I do not remember." Marcus reached into his work bag and pulled out his lunch container. He had not eaten it during his shift, saving it for later. But looking at this starving girl, he knew he could not walk away. He handed her the container. "Here, take it." The girl looked at the food, then at Marcus, then back at the food. Her hands trembled as she reached for it. "What do you want from me?" "Nothing. Just each." I did not believe him. Marcus could see it in her eyes. She had been hurt too many times to trust anyone, but hunger won over fear. She opened the container and started eating. The way she ate broke Marcus's heart. She tried to go slow, but her body would not let her. She stuffed food into her mouth like someone might take it. Marcus sat down on the ground a few feet away. Giving her space, he waited until she finished eating and drinking the water bottle he gave her. When she looked up at him, her eyes were wet with tears. "Why did you help me?" Marcus shrugged. "Because you needed help, but I am Valenian. Nobody helps Valenians. The Drath Empire marked us as conquered species. Most stations do not even let us stay. We have no rights, no protection." Marcus had heard stories about what happened to refugees on stations like this. The authorities ignored them. Criminals took advantage of them. Many disappeared into the dark corners of the galaxy, never to be seen again. It made him angry that people could treat others this way just because they came from a defeated world. "What is your name, Na?" Girl hesitated, then answered, "Lee-Ray." "I am Marcus. Listen, Lee-Ray. I come through this alley every day after work. If you are here tomorrow, I will bring more food." Kaleri stared at him like he had spoken in an alien language. "You will come back, yes, we." Marcus stood up and brushed dirt off his pants. "Because everyone deserves to eat. It is not complicated. But humans do not help other species for free. Everyone wants something." "Not everyone," Marcus said quietly. "My mother used to tell me that you judge a person by what they do when no one is watching, when no one would blame them for walking away. I am not going to walk away." He started to leave, but stopped and turned back. "Be here tomorrow." Same time, Lee-Ray watched him disappear into the shadows. She looked down at the empty food container in her hands. For the first time in months, since the Drath Empire invaded her home and killed her family, since she escaped on a refugee ship and ended up trapped on this station with no money and no hope. She felt something strange, hope. She did not know if this human, Marcus, would really come back. Probably not. People always promised things and never followed through. But he had given her food without asking for anything. He had looked at her like she was a person, not property, not something to be acidly pulled. Her knees to her chest and wrapped her arms around them. Her skin patterns glowed a little brighter now that she had food in her stomach. She thought about Marcus's brown eyes and the way he spoke so calmly, like helping a stranger, was the most normal thing in the world. Humans were strange. Everyone in the galaxy knew that they came from a death world called Earth, where everything tried to kill them. They were weaker than most species, not as smart as some, not as fast as others, but they had survived their terrible planet and spread across the stars through sheer stubborn determination. Had studied humans in school before the invasion. She remembered her xenobiology professor saying that humans had one trait that made them dangerous. They bonded with anyone. They formed packs, not just with their own kind, but with any species they met. They protected those packs with fierce loyalty. She wondered if Marcus was like that, or if he was just one kind person in a galaxy full of cruelty. Station lights dimmed as the artificial night cycle began. Lyrae curled up in her corner of the alley, trying to stay warm. She clutched the empty food container to her chest like a treasure. Tomorrow she would find out if the human kept his word. Tomorrow she would learn if kindness still existed in the universes. She drifted into an uneasy sleep for the first time in weeks. Her dreams were not filled with nightmares of fire and death. Instead, she dreamed of a simple human with tired eyes, who had seen her suffering and refused to look away. Marcus walked back to his quarters, thinking about the Valenian girl. He had enough credits to buy extra food tomorrow. Maybe he could bring some medical supplies to those cracked horns. Looked painful. He did not know why he cared so much. He saw suffering aliens every day on the station. Usually he felt bad and moved on with his life. But something about Lyrae reminded him of his younger sister, the way she tried to stay strong even though she was breaking inside. His sister had died years ago when she could not afford medical treatment. Marcus had been working 3 jobs, but it was not enough. He still remembered holding her hand as she slipped away. Maybe that was why he could not. Walked past Lyrae. Maybe he was trying to save someone this time, because he had failed before he reached his quarters and collapsed onto his bunk. Tomorrow was another long shift, but before work he would stop at the supply store. He would buy food and medicine and whatever else might help. Then he would go back to that alley. And he would prove to one starving alien girl that not everyone in the galaxy had forgotten how to be decent. Marcus closed his eyes and made a promise to himself. He would not let Lyrae down tomorrow. He would be there, and the day after that, and however many days it took, until she believed that someone actually cared whether she lived or died. Marcus kept his promise. He came back the next day with food, and the day after that, and the day after that. For 3 weeks, he met Lyrae in the same alley after his work shifts. Each time he brought supplies, food packets, water bottles, medical gel for her damaged horns, clean clothes that he guessed would fit her. First, Lyrae barely spoke. She took what he offered and thanked him in a quiet voice, always watching him like she expected him to suddenly demand payment. But Marcus never asked for anything. He would sit for a few minutes, ask how she was doing, and then leave for his quarters. Slowly things changed on the 8th day. Lyrae was waiting for him, standing. Instead of sitting, her skin patterns glowed brighter. Her horns had started to heal thanks to the medical gel. She spoke without being asked first. Was a student before the invasion. I studied xenobiology at the Central Academy on Valenia. Prime Marcus smiled. It was the first time she had shared something about herself that is amazing. What did you want to do after graduation? Lyrae looked down at her hands. I wanted to work with the Galactic Wildlife Preservation Society. I wanted to protect endangered species across the galaxy. Stupid dreams now, not stupid, Marcus said firmly. Just delayed by the 3rd week, Marcus learned Lyrae's full story. She had been in her final year of university when the Drath Empire attacked her family, told her to run while they stayed behind to fight. She never saw them again. She escaped on a refugee ship packed with hundreds of other Valenians. They landed on Port Designation 7, where the station authorities registered them as displaced persons and then forgot about them. One would hire Valenians. Most species did not want to risk angering the Drath Empire by helping their enemies, the refugees. Survived by begging, stealing, or selling whatever they had left, including themselves. Lyrae told Marcus about the others. Like her, hiding in the forgotten sections of the station, trying to stay invisible. An old Valenian professor who died from infection because he could not afford medical care. A young mother whose children were taken by traffickers. A teenage boy who simply vanished one night. Marcus felt anger burning in his chest. The station had rules and laws that were supposed to protect everyone. But those rules only applied to people with money and citizenship refugees like Liray existed. In the cracks where no one cared what happened to them on the 21st day, Marcus made a decision. "Come with me, Liray, tomorrow. After my shift, meet me at docking bay." 12 Liray eyes went wide with fear. "Why? What are you going to do? I'm going to give you a job, but I have no papers, no work permit. The station will arrest me," Marcus grinned. "Let me handle that. I know people." The next day, Liray nervously approached docking bay 12. She had not slept, afraid this was some kind of trap. But when she arrived, she found Marcus standing next to a small cargo ship talking to a station official. "This is Liray Shen," Marcus said, gesturing to her. "She is my new business partner and crew member. Here are her registration documents." Official looked at the documents, then at Liray, then back at Marcus. "These papers say she has been your partner for 6 months. That is correct," Marcus said without blinking. "We have been working together remotely. Now she is joining me on the ship." The official did not look convinced, but the documents were in order. He stamped them and handed Liray an identity card. "Welcome to Port Designation 7, official crew member. You have full station access now." After the official left, Liray stared at the card in her hands. "How did you do this?" Marcus shrugged. "I called in some favors with the Merchant Guild. They helped me backdate your employment. The documents are completely legal now. You are not a refugee. You're a registered crew member of an independent trading vessel." "My vessel, but..." "Why would you do this for me?" "Because I need help," Marcus said, "and you have exactly the skills I need. I transport biological cargo all the time, medicines, live plants, sometimes even animals. I could really use someone with a xenobiology background to help me catalog and handle those shipments. Plus, you need work, and I need an assistant." It makes sense. Liray felt tears forming in her eyes. This was more than just a job. This was legitimacy, protection, a future. She had thought those things were lost forever. "I do not know what to say." "Say you will help me inventory the cargo hold," Marcus said with a smile, "because I have been doing it wrong for years, and I am pretty sure I almost killed myself last month transporting some toxic fungus from Rigel." 6 Liray laughed. It was a strange sound. She had not laughed in so long she almost forgot what it felt like. "Show me this cargo hold. Let me see what disasters you have been creating over the following weeks." Liray proved herself invaluable. She reorganized Marcus's entire storage system, separating biological materials by danger level and environmental needs. She caught 3 separate instances where Marcus had been storing incompatible items together that could have caused explosions or toxic reactions. She even negotiated better prices with suppliers using her knowledge of various species needs. Marcus in turn taught her how to pilot the ship, how to navigate station bureaucracy, and how to deal with difficult clients. They fell into an easy partnership, working side by side in the cramped spaces of the small freighter one. Evening, after a particularly successful cargo run, Marcus and Liray sat in the ship cockpit, sharing a meal Marcus had learned to cook. Volanian-style dishes using ingredients he found at specialty markets. Liray was touched that he made the effort. "You are getting better at this," she said, tasting the stew. "This almost tastes like my mother cooking, almost." Marcus laughed. "I will take that as high praise." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the station lights through the viewport. Then Liray spoke. Quietly, "You never asked me to repay you for the food, the papers, this job. You never demanded anything because you do not owe me anything." Marcus said, "We are partners. Partners help each other in Valenian culture," she said slowly. "When someone saves your life, we have a concept called kesher. It means a bond of spirit. When you helped me when I was dying in that alley, you created kesher between us." Marcus frowned. "I do not want you to feel like you owe me some kind of debt. That is not why I helped." Liray shook her head. "You do not understand. Kesher is not about debt. It is about recognition. When someone shows you true kindness, when they see your worth, when everyone else sees nothing, that creates a connection that is kesher. It is the foundation of our deepest relationships." "What kind of relationships?" Marcus asked. "Tall kinds," she said, meeting his eyes. "Family, friendship, and yes, sometimes marriage." The air in the cockpit suddenly felt charged with something unspoken. Marcus looked away first. His face flushed. "We should get some rest," he said, standing up quickly. "Big cargo run tomorrow." "Yes," Liray agreed, watching him leave. "Tomorrow, but As she sat alone in the cockpit looking at the stars, she let herself smile. She had seen how Marcus looked at her when he thought she was not watching. She had felt the gentle way he touched her hand when teaching her the ship controls. She knew what was growing between them, even if neither of them was ready to name it yet. The station and the forgotten. Allie's other Valanians whispered about the girl who had found a kind human, the one who had given her a future. Some were hopeful, others were jealous, a few were suspicious, and one Valanian decided to report Lyrae location to the Drath Empire authorities because in the dark places of the galaxy, there were always people willing to betray others for a few credits or a moment of safety. 3 days later, as Marcus and Lyrae prepared for a routine cargo inspection, a Drath military officer appeared at their docking bay. He was tall and armored with cold eyes that showed no mercy. Marcus Chen. He said, "You are harboring a Valenian refugee. Surrender her immediately or face arrest." Marcus stepped in front of Lyrae. "She is not a refugee. She is my registered crew." "Member," the officer sneered, "I do not care about your human papers. The Drath Empire has jurisdiction over all Valenian survivors. Hand her over now, Notha." Officer hand moved to his weapon. "You would risk your freedom for one alien." Marcus crossed his arms over my dead body. The crowd that had gathered around the docking bay went silent. They had never seen a human refuse a direct order from a Drath officer. This was going to end badly, everyone knew it, but Marcus stood his ground, protecting the Valanian girl who had become so much more than just a crew member. And in that moment, Lyrae realized something. Her studies had been right. Humans did bond fiercely with their chosen pack, and somehow, without either of them planning it, she had become part of Marcus' pack. The question now was whether that would be enough to save them both. Drath officer stepped closer to Marcus, his hand resting on his weapon. This was clearly not a discussion anymore. This was a threat. The crowd around the docking bay grew larger as word spread that something interesting was happening. Most aliens kept their distance. Nobody wanted trouble with the Drath Empire. "Step aside, human." The officer's voice was cold. "You have no authority to keep Valanian property." Marcus felt his heart pounding, but he did not move. "She is not property. She is a person, and she is under the protection of the Human Merchant Guilda." Officer laughed. "The guild has no power here. This is a neutral station we follow. Drath." Marcus pulled out his identification card and held it up. "Actually, according to Section 7 of the Interspecies Commerce Treaty, any registered crew member of a guild vessel has the same rights as guild citizens. That includes protection from unlawful seizure." Officer's face darkened with anger. "You dare quote laws to may dare quote treaties that your empire signed." Marcus said, his voice steady. "If you take her, you violate those treaties. The guild will file formal complaints. Your trade routes through human space will be reviewed." It was a bluff. Mostly Marcus had no idea if the guild would actually go to bat for one Valanian girl. But he was counting on the Drath, not knowing that either the empire was powerful, but they depended on trade with dozens of species, including humans. Disrupting those relationships over one refugee might not be worth it. The officer reached for Lyrae. "Enough of this. She comes with me now." Marcus grabbed the officer's arm. "That was a mistake. We're stronger than humans, much stronger." The officer backhanded Marcus, sending him crashing into the docking bay wall. Pain exploded through his skull and he tasted blood. Lyrae screamed and ran to Marcus' side. "No, please do not hurt him." The officer pulled out restraints. "Time to learn your place." Valonian thought was when the first human arrived. "Hey," everyone turned. A tall woman in Merchant Guild uniform stood at the edge of the crowd. Her name was Sarah Chen, Marcus's cousin. She worked on a hauler docked 3 bays over. "She must have heard about the confrontation. That is my family you are hitting," she said, walking forward. The officer sneered. "One more human does not change anything." "No," Sarah agreed. "But how about 40 more humans on cue?" The docking bay began filling with people. Human cargo workers, pilots, engineers, mechanics, all wearing Merchant Guild patches. They did not say anything. It just formed a wall between the Drath officer and Marcus and Lyrae. The message was clear: you go through us. The officer looked around, realizing he was now badly outnumbered. His hand moved away from his weapon. "This is not over," he said. "You are making enemies of the Drath Empire." "We already are enemies," Marcus said, getting to his feet with Lyrae. "Help you. Conquered peaceful species and turned them into slaves. So yeah, I think we are okay being your enemies." The standoff continued for several tense minutes. Neither side moved. Finally, the officer spoke into his communicator, calling for backup within minutes. Station security arrived, led by Administrator Vex, a four-armed Quellan. He looked extremely annoyed. "What is happening here, Vex?" demanded the Drath officer. Explained his version. The Valanians were Drath property. This human was interfering. Station rules required all refugees to be turned over to their legal owners. He demanded Luray immediate arrest. Marcus explained his version. Luray was a registered crew member with legal documentation. The Drath Empire had no jurisdiction over guild members. The officer was violating interspecies treaties. Administrator Vex looked like he wanted to be anywhere. Else he knew this situation could explode into something much bigger. The Drath Empire controlled military power in this sector. But the Human Merchant Guild controlled the trade route. Stations like Port Designation 7 survived by staying neutral. If he sided with either faction, he would make enemies. "Let me see the documentation," Vex said. Finally, Marcus handed over Luray papers. The administrator examined them carefully. His multiple eyes scanned every line, looking for problems, but the documents were perfect. They showed Luray had been employed for 6 months. They listed her qualifications, her duties, her salary. Everything was in order. "These papers are legitimate," Vex announced. "They are forged," the Drath officer snarled. "Do you have proof?" "No." "But I know." Administrator Vex sighed. "Knowledge without proof is opinion, officer. And on my station we follow procedure. These documents say this Valanian is a legal crew member. Unless you can prove otherwise, she stays." The Drath officer looked like he wanted to argue, but he was outnumbered, outmaneuvered, and out of options. Starting a fight here would create an incident that even the Drath Empire would have to answer for. He pointed at Marcus. "This is not finished, human. You have made a powerful enemy today." Marcus wiped blood from his lip. "I will take my chances." The officer turned and left, his footsteps echoing through the now silent docking bay. As soon as he was gone, the crowd erupted in chatter. The humans began patting Marcus on the back, congratulating him on standing up to the Drath. Sarah hugged him tightly. "You idiot," she whispered. "You could have been arrested, die." "No," Marcus said, "but I could not let them take her." Sarah looked at Luray and smiled. "She must be pretty special. She is." Marcus said he did not even try to hide it anymore. Over the following days, the story spread throughout the station. The human who stood up to the Drath Empire. The merchant who risked everything for a Valanian refugee. Other Valanians began approaching Marcus, asking for help. He could not save everyone, but he put out word through the guild. Humans started hiring Valanians as crew members, finding them legitimate work, offering protection. The Drath Empire noticed complaints were filed, threats were made, but the Human Merchant Guild stood firm. They announced that any guild member had the right to hire whoever they wanted, regardless of species. The guild would protect those crew members with all available resources. It was a small victory in a big galaxy, but it mattered. Marcus and Luray returned to their ship to prepare for their next cargo run. As they worked side by side in the cargo hold, Luray kept glancing at Marcus. The bruise on his face where the officer had hit him was turning purple. She had seen him take that hit for her, seen him refuse to back down even when threatened with arrest. "You were willing to lose everything for me," she said. Quietly, Marcus looked up from the cargo manifest. "Yeah, I guess I was." Why? He set down his tablet and walked over to her. "Because you matter, Luray, because people are not disposable. Because walking away when someone needs help, that makes you less human, and I am not willing to become less just to stay safe." Luray reached up and gently touched the bruise on his face. He winced, but did not pull away. "In my culture," she said, "when someone risks their life to protect you, when they stand against impossible odds for your sake, that is the highest form of Keshawat." "Does that mean?" "It means." She stepped closer, her glowing skin patterns brightening. "It means you are more than my employer, more than my friend. You are my family now. And among Valanians, family is forever." Marcus felt his breath catch. Something had shifted between them. It had been building for weeks, but now it was undeniable. The way she looked at him, the way he could not imagine his life without her anymore. Luray. Marcus started, but he did not know how to finish. She smiled. "I know you do not have the words yet. That is okay. We have time, do we?" Marcus asked. The Drath officer said this was not over. "Then we face what comes next." Together Marcus nodded together. They stood there in the cargo hold surrounded by crates and containers. Just a human and a Valenian who had found something neither expected in a galaxy that tried to divide species into categories of strong and weak, conqueror and conquered. They had created something different. A bond built on mutual respect, trust, and something deeper that neither was. Quite ready to name that night, Marcus lay in his bunk, unable to sleep. He thought about everything that had happened. The confrontation with the Drath officer, the humans who had stood with him, the look in Lyray's eyes when she called him family. He had spent years working alone, keeping people at arm's length. Was safer that way, less complicated, but Lyray had changed everything. I'd reminded him why he became a merchant in the first place. Not for credits or comfort, but for freedom. The freedom to choose who you helped, who you stood beside, who you protected. His door chimed. Lyray stood in the corridor looking worried. I could not sleep, she said. Can I come? And Marcus moved over, making room on his small bunk. They sat side by side in the dim light. Are you afraid? Lyray asked. Terrified, Marcus admitted. The Drath Empire does not forget. They will come after us eventually. Then why did you do it? Why risk so much? Marcus thought about it. Because some things are worth the risk, because if we only help people when it is safe, we never really help any. Won Ollie leaned her head on his shoulder. Her skin patterns cast soft blue light across the walls. You are a strange human, Marcus Chen. Most species would have walked away, most humans would have to. Marcus said, I am not special. I just could not live with myself if I had done nothing. That is what makes you special, she whispered. That is why I keshered a youth. They sat together in comfortable silence, neither knowing what the future held. The Drath Empire would not stop. They had made enemies who had long memories and longer reach. But in that moment, none of it mattered, because they had each other. And sometimes that was enough to face whatever came next. 2 weeks after the confrontation with the Drath officer, Marcus received a message from the Merchant Guild. A high-paying job transporting medical supplies to a distant mining colony called Kepler Station. The journey would take 3 weeks through hyperspace. Most of that time would be just Marcus and Lyray alone on the ship. Marcus accepted the job. They needed the credits, and honestly, he welcomed the chance to get far away from port designation 7, at least for a while. The Drath had been watching them. He could feel it every time they left the ship. Every transaction at the supply markets, there were always Drath soldiers nearby, always watching, always waiting. Lyray seemed relieved too. She had been having nightmares, waking up in the middle of the artificial night screaming about the invasion. Marcus would hear her through the thin walls of the ship. He wanted to help, but did not know how. You could not fix trauma with good intentions. The day they departed, Lyray stood on the bridge, watching port designation 7 shrank in the rear viewport. She looked thoughtful, almost sad. What are you thinking? Marcus asked, from the pilot's seat. I am thinking about the others, she said. The Valenians still hiding in the alleys, the ones who do not have someone like you. To help them, we are doing what we can, Marcus said. The guild is hiring more Valenians every day. Other humans are helping. Word is spreading, but it is not enough. It will never be enough. My people are scattered across 100 stations. Most will never find safety. Marcus did not have an answer for that. She was right. It was not enough. But what else could they do? There were just 2 people trying to survive in a galaxy that did not care about refugees or justice. The ship shuddered as it entered. Hyperspace reality twisted around them for a moment before stabilizing into the strange blue glow of faster-than-light travel. They would spend the next 3 weeks in this bubble between stars, cut off from the rest of the galaxy, just the 2 of them. The first few days were quiet. They fell into their usual routines. Marcus handled navigation and ship maintenance. Lyray managed their cargo and kept inventory of supplies. They ate meals together in the small galley. They worked side by side. In the cargo hold, everything felt normal, but something was different. Marcus found himself watching Lyray when she was not looking, the way she moved, the way her skin patterns glowed brighter when she was happy, the sound of her laugh when he said something stupid. He had always known she was beautiful, but now it was like he was seeing her for the first time. Really seeing her. Lori caught him staring one evening during dinners. Something wrong? She asked. I know, Marcus said quickly, just thinking about. What about how things have changed? He said. I mean, a few months ago I was alone on this ship. Now I cannot imagine running it without Yuli. Ray smiled. You would probably poison yourself with toxic cargo within a week. Probably, Marcus laughed. They finished. Eating in comfortable silence, then Lorraine spoke again, her voice softer. Can I ask you something? Why did you help me that first night in the alley? You did not know me. You had no reason to care. Marcus thought about it. He had asked himself that question. Many times I grew up poor, he said finally. In the lower districts of New Beijing on Earth, my mom worked 3 jobs just to keep us fed. My little sister got sick when she was 15. Cancer, they said it was treatable, but treatment cost credits. We did not have. I worked as hard as I could, took every job I could find, but it was not enough. She died because we were poor, because no one would help us without payment. I am sorry, Lirae said. Quietly, Marcus shrugged. It was a long time ago, but I remember what it felt like watching her waste away. Knowing that somewhere people had the medicine to save her but would not share it because we could not afford it. When I saw you in that alley, starving and desperate, it reminded me of my sister. I could not save her, but maybe I could save you. You did save me, Lirae said. You gave me my life back. Marcus looked away, embarrassed. I just gave you some food. No, she said firmly. You gave me hope. You reminded me that kindness still exists in the galaxy, that not everyone sees Velenians as slaves or enemies. You saw me as a person when everyone else saw nothing. The conversation shifted after that. They talked about their childhoods. Their dreams before the war shaped their lives. Marcus told stories about Earth, about the great forests and oceans that covered the deadly beautiful world where humans evolved. Lirae told him about Velania Prime, about cities that glowed with living light, about her family and friends lost in the invasion. They talked through the night, neither wanting to sleep, neither wanting the conversation to end over the following days. They grew closer. Marcus taught Lirae how to pilot the ship, letting her take the controls during routine system checks. She was a natural, learning quickly and handling the ship with confidence. Lirae taught Marcus about Velenian culture and language. He learned that the patterns on her skin changed with her emotions. Blue for happiness, red for anger, silver for sadness. One evening, about 10 days into their journey, Marcus found Lirae in the observation lounge. She was staring out at the swirling colors of hyperspace. Her skin patterns were silver. Hey, he said, sitting next to her. You okay? Lirae was quiet for a long moment. I was thinking about Kesher, she finally said. The bond. Think. She nodded. Among my people, Kesher is sacred. When you save someone's life, when you protect them without asking for anything in return, that creates a connection that cannot be broken. You have mentioned that before, Marcus said. Yes. But I never explained what it really means. She turned to face him. When Kesher forms, it is not about obligation or debt. It is about recognition of soul. You see someone's true nature, you witness their goodness without masks or pretense, and when you see that you cannot unsee it, the bond is permanent. Marcus felt his heart beating faster. Where are you going with this? Lirae took a deep breath. I thought Kesher formed the night you first fed me in the alley. But I was wrong. It did not form then. When did it form? She reached out and touched his hand. It formed the day you stood against the Drath officer, the day you took a hit for me, the day you risked everything knowing you might lose it all. That was when I truly saw who you are, Marcus. Chen and I cannot unsee it. Marcus swallowed hard. Lirae, I wait, she said. Let me finish. In Velenian culture, when Kesher forms between two people, it is the foundation. For the deepest bond we have, it is how we choose our life partners. Oh, Marcus said. His mind was racing. I know humans do not have Kesher, she continued. I know your culture is different, but I need you to understand what you mean to me. You are not just my employer or my friend. You are the person I choose to stand beside, to trust completely to. She hesitated to love. The word hung in the air between them. Love. It was the first time either of them had said it out loud, but now that it was spoken, Marcus realized it had been true for a long time. He had been so afraid of taking advantage of her trauma, afraid she might feel obligated because he helped her, afraid of crossing a line that could not be uncrossed. But hearing her speak with such clarity and strength, he realized those fears were his own issues, not hers. Lirae, he said carefully, are you sure about this about me? I do not want you to feel like you owe me anything, she laughed. It is not about owing you anything. You still do not. Understand, Kesher, it is not obligation, it is choice. I choose you, Marcus, not because you saved me, not because I need you, but because I want you, because you make me laugh, because you are kind without trying, because when I imagine my future, I cannot imagine it without you. In it, Marcus felt something break open inside him, all the walls he had built. All the distance he had tried to maintain, it all came crashing down. I have been terrified, he admitted. Terrified that you might feel pressured, that I might hurt you somehow, that this, she gestured between them, might be wrong. Somehow is it wrong, she asked. Does it feel wrong? No, he said. It feels like the most right thing in my life. Then why are we fighting it? Marcus had no answer to that. Instead, he did what he had wanted to do for weeks. He leaned forward slowly, giving her time to pull away. But she did not. She met him halfway. Their lips touched, gentle and tentative, like they were both afraid of breaking something precious. When they finally pulled apart, Leray was smiling. Her skin patterns glowed, bright blue, the color of happiness. So she said, "What do we do now?" Now, Marcus said, "We figure this out together. No more hiding. No more pretending. This is just a business partnership, we see. Where this ghost." Leray leaned her head on his shoulder. "I like that plan." They sat together in the observation lounge, watching hyperspace flow around them. Two people from different worlds who had found in each other something neither knew they needed. Marcus thought about all the choices that led them here, his decision to walk through that alley, the decision to stop and help, the decision to stand up to the Drath Empire. Every choice had been terrifying. Every choice could have gone wrong, but they had. All led him here to this moment with this person, and he would not change any of it. We need to talk about what happens when we get back to port designation 7, Marcus said. The Drath are not going to forget. No, Leray said. They might come after us again. They will come after us again, she corrected her. You afraid? Larry thought about it. But not of them. I am afraid of losing this. Losing you. Marcus tightened his arm around her. You are not going to lose me, promise. Promise. They spent the rest of the journey in a bubble of happiness. They were still professional during work hours. They focused on their cargo and ship maintenance. And in the evenings, they talked for hours, learning everything about each other, sharing hopes and fears and dreams. Marcus told her about his plans to eventually retire and buy a small farm somewhere peaceful. Leray told him about her dream of finishing her degree and working to protect endangered species. They talked about the future tentatively, carefully, like they were afraid saying it out loud might jinx it. On the last night before arriving at Kepler Station, they lay together in Marcus' bunk. The ship hummed around them, familiar and comforting. Whatever happens when we get back, Leray said, we face it together. Marcus agreed. No running, no giving up, never. She kissed him. It was soft and sweet and full of promise. When they broke apart, she smiled at him. That smile that made her skin glow brighter. That smile that made Marcus' heart do strange things. I love you, she said simply, without hesitation. I love you too, Marcus said. And it was the truest thing he had ever spoken. They arrived at Kepler Station the next day. They delivered their cargo, collected their payment, and prepared for the journey back to port designation 7. Neither of them knew what waited for them there, but they knew they would face it together. And in a galaxy that tried to tear people apart, that tried to make refugees into slaves and kindness into weakness, they had built something that could not be broken, a bond forged in compassion, tested by adversity and sealed by love. Though Drath Empire was powerful, but Marcus and Leray had something stronger. They had each other, and they had hope, and sometimes that was enough. The journey back from Kepler Station should have been peaceful. Marcus and Leray had their cargo delivered successfully, collected their payment, and were looking forward to returning to port designation 7. They spent their time together, talking about the future, making plans. Maybe they could expand their business higher. More crew, help more Valanians find legitimate work. The possibilities felt endless. Then the alarms screamed. Marcus was on the bridge, checking navigation, when every warning system activated at once. The ship lurched violently as something grabbed them and yanked them out of hyperspace. Reality twisted sickeningly, and suddenly they were floating in normal space, surrounded by darkness and a massive Drath military cruiser. Tension. Human vessel, you are ordered to cut engines and prepare to be boarded. Comply immediately or be destroyed. Marcus with ice in his veins, he hit the intercom. Leray, get to the bridge. No, she arrived within seconds, her face pale. What is happening? We have been ambushed, Marcus said. The Drath found USA docking clamp attached to their hull with a heavy thud. The ship shuddered. Moments later, Drath soldiers poured through their airlock, 10 heavily armed warriors in combat. Armored, they moved with practiced efficiency, securing every room. Within minutes, Marcus and Leray were surrounded with weapons pointed at their heads. Then he walked in. Commander Vec was a tall Drath, with scars covering his face and cold, calculating eyes. He looked at Leray with recognition and something that might have been satisfactionally. Shen, he said, daughter of Professor Kalen. Shen of the Central Academy on Valania Prime, we finally found. Leray went very still. Marcus could see her trembling, but she did not speak. Commander Vec walked around her slowly like a predator circling prey. Your father was quite troublesome during the invasion. He organized resistance, destroyed several of our supply depots. Before we captured him, what did you do to him? Leray whispered. What we do to all rebels, Vec said casually. We made an example. We broadcasted his execution across every Valenian settlement, a lesson about the price of defiance. Leray made a sound like something breaking inside her. Marcus tried to move toward her, but a soldier shoved him back. Do not touch her, he snarled. Vec left. The human is protective. How touching. Tell me, human, why did you interfere with Drath justice? This girl is conquered property. You had no right to hide Hirsch. She is not property, Marcus said through clenched teeth. She is a person with rights. The Drath have rights, Vec said. Humans have rights. Even some lesser species have negotiated rights, but Valanians, he shook his head. They lost their rights when they lost their world. That is how conquest works. Marcus felt rage burning in his chest. You cannot just declare people have no value because you beat them in a war. Of course we can, Vec said. That is what power means, and you are about to learn a very important lesson about power. Humany gestured, and 2 soldiers grabbed Leray. She struggled, but they were much stronger. They dragged her toward the airlock. Let her go, Marcus shouted. Vec turned to him. You care about her? Yes, I can see it in your face. Good, that makes this more satisfying. You will watch her disappear into a Drath labor camp. You will spend the rest of your life knowing you could not save her, and maybe next time you will think twice before interfering with the Empire. Marcus's mind raced desperately. He was outgunned, outnumbered, and out of options, but he could not just let them take her. He could not fail her. Not after everything they had been through. He made a decision. If you take her, I will destroy this ship. Raised at an eyebrow, you would kill yourself and all of you, Marcus said, his voice steady. I am a cargo hauler. I transport volatile materials right now. I have industrial chemicals in my hold separately. They are stable, but if I mix them, he let the implication hang. Vec studied him carefully. You are bluffing him. Marcus pulled out a remote detonator from his pocket. It was actually just a cargo bay controller, but the Drath did not know that one. Button, everything in this sector gets vaporized. The soldiers shifted nervously. Even Vec looked uncertain. Humans had a reputation for unpredictable desperation. They came from a death world where everything tried to kill them. Some said humans did. Not fear death the same way other species did. You would not dare, Vec said, but he did not sound certain. Try me. Marcus said, I have got nothing to lose. You take her. I have got no reason to keep living. Might as well take you with me. The standoff lasted for what felt like hours, but was probably only seconds. Vec calculating odds, Marcus trying not to let his hand shake. Leray staring at Marcus with wide, terrified eyes. Then the proximity alarms went off. Again, 3 ships dropped out of hyperspace. Human merchant vessels. They surrounded the Drath cruiser. Their weapons were not military grade, but there were enough of them to make things very expensive for the Drath attention. Drath vessel, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the Human Merchant Guild. You are ordered to release our people immediately. Marcus nearly collapsed with relief. His cousin had come through. He had sent her an emergency beacon when the Drath first grabbed them. He did not know if it would work, if anyone would respond, but Sarah had come and she brought friends. Vec's face turned ugly. This is Drath. Military business, the guild has no authority. Here, Captain. Sarah's voice came back cold. Wrong, the vessel you are boarding is guild registered. The crew members are under guild protection. You are in violation of interspecies treaties. Release them now, or face the consequences. What consequences? Vec demanded. You have no warships, no, but we have trade routes, Vec. Do you know how much Drath commerce moves through human-controlled space? How many credits your empire makes from those trade agreements? Sarah paused. We also have cameras, broadcasting this encounter to every major news network in the sector. The whole galaxy is watching you threaten unarmed merchants. Marcus could see Vec doing the calculations. This was supposed to be a quiet capture, no witnesses, no complications, just grab one refugee and disappear. But now it was an incident recorded witness, the kind of thing that caused political problems you were making. A mistake, Vec said. Maybe, Sarah replied, but it is our mistake to make. Release them? Vec stared at Marcus for a long moment. His expression promised this was not over. Then he gestured to his soldiers. Release the Velenianthe. Soldiers let go of Lyrae. She stumbled and Marcus caught her, pulling her close. You have powerful friends, human, Vec said, but friends can only protect you for so long. One day you will be alone, and when that day comes, I will be waiting, looking forward to it, Marcus said. With more courage than he felt, the Drath soldiers retreated back to their cruiser. The docking clamp released, and the massive warship pulled away slowly, menacingly. A promise that this was not finished. As soon as the Drath were gone, Sarah's ship docked. With Marcus, Sarah herself came through the airlock and pulled Marcus into a tight hug. You idiot, she said. You almost got yourself killed. No, Marcus said. Thanks for coming. That is what family does. She looked at Lyrae. You must be pretty special. For my cousin to go this Lyrae managed a weak smile. He is the crazy one, Sarah laughed. Yeah, humans are like that. We do not know when to quit. She turned serious. Marcus, you cannot go back to port designation 7. The Drath will be waiting. So what do we do? Sarah smiled. Come with us to New Terra. New Terra was a human colony, world on the edge of explored space. Far from Drath influence, far from the politics and dangers of the neutral stations. It was a growing settlement with opportunities. For people willing to work hard, you can start over there, Sarah said. Build something real. The colony always needs traders, especially ones with rare skills. She looked at Lyrae. A xenobiology expert would be incredibly valuable. Marcus looked at Lyrae. What do you think? She took his hand. A new start. A place where we do not have to hide it. Sounds perfect, they said. Goodbye to port designation 7. Without looking back, Marcus and Lyrae followed Sarah convoy to New Terra. The journey took 2 weeks. But when they finally arrived, Marcus understood why people called it that. New Terra, New Earth. Planet was beautiful. Blue skies, green forests, oceans that stretched to the horizon. It was not exactly like Earth, but it was close enough to make humans feel at home, and for other species seeking refuge, it was a paradise. They established a trading company called Chen and Shen Imports. They specialized in biological materials, using Lyrae expertise to identify valuable species and Marcus connections. To transport them, the business grew quickly. Within months, they were profitable. Within a year, they were successful, but more importantly, they were happy. Other Velenians heard about them. Refugees who had been hiding on stations throughout the sector, they made their way to New Terra, where humans welcomed them with jobs, homes, and safety. Marcus and Lyrae helped each one, getting them established, protecting them from those who might hurt Thema. Small Velenian community began to grow. They built. Homes started. Families began to heal from the trauma of war. And at the center of it all were Marcus and Lyrae. The human who refused to look away, and the Velenian who taught him that kindness creates bonds. Stronger than any chain. 8 months after arriving on New Terra, Marcus and Lyrae got married. The ceremony blended human and Velenian traditions. Marcus wore a simple suit. Lyrae wore traditional Velenian robes that glowed with beautiful patterns. Sarah was there, along with dozens of other humans and Velenians who had become their extended family as they exchanged vows under New Terra twin moons. Marcus thought about everything that led them here. A chance encounter in a dirty alley, a decision to help when it would have been easier to walk away. All the choices, both big and small, that brought them to this moment. Choose you, Lyrae said during her vows. I choose to stand beside you, to build a life with you, to love you for as long as I live, not because Kesher demands it, but because my heart does. Marcus had tears in his eyes. I choose you too, he said. I choose every day to be the person you see in me. To protect you, to stand with you, to love you forever. They kissed as the crowd cheered, humans and Valenians together celebrating. Love that crossed species boundaries, that defied empires and expectations, that proved compassion was stronger than conquest. After the ceremony, they stood together in the garden behind their new home. Lyrae had planted Valenian crystal flower seeds. She thought were lost forever now. They grew in neat rows, glowing softly in the twilight. Do you ever think about that night in the alley? Lyrae asked Tall. The time Marcus said, "What do you think about?" Marcus was quiet for a moment. I think about how easy it would have been to walk past you, to pretend I did not see, to tell myself it was not my problem, but you did not know I did not. In that choice, that one moment of deciding to stop, changed everything. Lyrae took his hand. It changed me. It changed us. It changed all of them. She gestured to the Valenian settlement growing around them. Dozens of families, hundreds of people. All here because you proved that someone cared. Marcus shook his head. I just fed a hungry person. The rest of this had happened because people chose to be decent. That is what makes it special, she said. In a galaxy that tells people to look away to protect themselves, to put profit over principles, you chose kindness that is not common, Marcus, that is exceptional, that is human. They stood watching the sunset paint the sky in colors neither Earth nor Valenia had ever known. Two people from different worlds who found in each other not just love but hope. And across the galaxy, as their story spread, other species were beginning to understand what Lyrae learned in that dark alley. Humans did not leave people behind. When they formed bonds, they honored them. When they made promises, they kept them. They were not the strongest species or the smartest or the most advanced, but they had something that empires built on fear and conquest could never understand. They had the stubborn, foolish, beautiful determination to see suffering and refuse to accept Eton New Terra. As families gathered for the evening meal, as children played in streets lined with crystal flowers, as humans and Valenians worked side by side building something new, Marcus and Lyrae walked home together. Hand in hand, heart to heart, two souls bound, not by fate or obligation, but by choice. The choice to be kind, the choice to be brave, the choice to love, and in the end, that choice made all the difference. Years later, when people asked Marcus why he helped that starving girl in the alley, he always gave the same answer: because she needed help, and I could give it. Everything else is just details. It was that simple and that profound. One human, one Valenian, one moment of compassion that sparked a revolution. Not a revolution of weapons or warfare, but something more powerful, a revolution of kindness, of people seeing each other not as aliens or enemies, but as neighbors, friends, family. The Drath Empire still ruled its conquered territories through fear, but on the edges of their power in places like New Terra, a different kind of empire was growing, one built on mutual respect and shared hope, an empire that proved the future belonged not to those who conquered, but to those who dared to command it all. Started because one tired cargo hauler refused to walk past a starving girl in an alley because he saw her not as property or a problem, but as a person, and that made all the difference.